We're live on Facebook. All right, Lab Code Agents, great to see everybody today. Dale Archdekin and Brian Curtis back with another cash call. And this one is a very special one. You know, we do interview here vendors or people that have software or services that really help us in our industry. And because Brian and I are pretty much hyper focused on lead conversion, scripting, dialogue, and Brian and I are both prospectors. And I'm going to say old school prospectors, which is probably a joke in front of our guest when I say this, given his depth of experience. But Brian and I have done it for a really long time. This guy has probably done it for more years than both Brian and I combined, and that would be Ren Jones from Vulcan7. So welcome, Ren. Thanks for joining us today on Cash Call. It's an honor.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody who doesn't know Ren, he used to be in sales, sold 150, 180 homes himself. Ran multiple brokerages, was a coach and trainer for many years in the industry. And then I don't know how long ago you created Vulcan7, but
we've been around for just over 10 years, live and in color. And I didn't run any brokerages, but thanks for the plug.
Okay, well, you know what? I think you could if you wanted to. If you decided to do that, you could absolutely do that. But Vulcan7, for those of you who don't know it, Brian Curtis currently uses it. I've used it in the past to run inside sales teams, and in my experience, has one of the best source of data out there for expireds, for sale by owners, circle prospecting. Anytime that you're trying to get contact information to get in touch with a property owner or do cold prospecting out in your market, it's the best system to use for that. And so that's why we wanted to have Ren here. Not only somebody who provides that kind of tool and that data, but also somebody who knows what he's doing. And so has done it before, has done what we've done before, is doing what you are, has done what you are doing now. So Ren, we wanted to have you on the show so that you can talk to this audience. And let's just start out with, is there any similarity? What hasn't changed in calling strangers and asking for business from when you did it to when we're doing it now?
I don't see a lot of changes. I see a lot of additions of things. I don't see any deletions of things. And if we can, with the people watching, if they can walk away with 4 or 5 or 6 ideas that help them, and the first thing I would say is we're one of the few platforms that's seller driven, and the idea that buyers take a lot of time and listing property takes a high level of skill. If you can go in that direction, you can have money and the time to enjoy it. And that's what gets me excited, because I feel sorry for people that have been in this a long time and they're running 60% buyers and they're very, very tired and they're working long weeks, and there is a better way.
Yeah, working sellers, absolutely. If you can get a listing, it probably is worth the time of 2 or 3 buyers, I would say.
Right. And we have lots and lots and lots of clients that are 70 to 75% sellers. Now, to be fair, if you've got a very large team, then it pulls you the other direction. But you yourself, as the rainmaker on the listing side, are enjoying that Monday through Friday, 8-hour day and enjoying your weekend. So
yeah, great.
The way you want to do it.
So Ren, why don't you just give us a quick rundown on Vulcan7 itself? What do you guys provide? How can these people leverage it? And then we'll get into sort of the nuts and bolts.
All right, without doing too much of a plug, but our belief and our platform reflects it, that seller-driven business gives you a life, and a very good life. And a lot of our customers make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 after pre-tax net income. We have people making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million pre-tax net income by focusing on the listing side of the business. So expireds, for sale owners, for rent by owners, neighborhood search with a lot of filters like likely to list and other features, non-owner occupied, pre-foreclosure, just a lot of categories that's all focused on listing property. Because if you list property, and here's a fun thing, Dale and Brian, one of the things, if I ask an audience, what is the #1 best source of buyers? And we play, I like to play Family Feud. Here you got the list of 10 things. What's in the #1 position? What is the #1 best source of buyers? And what would a perfect buyer be? A perfect buyer would be somebody that is ready to go out right now and pick out a home and somebody that is very loyal and it's not going to just type your weekends 3 weekends in a row. They're going to go out on a Tuesday at noon, and by Wednesday they picked out a house. And I'm like, what is that source? And I always ask the audience, and they'll say it's from signs, it's from your listings, it's from this and that, and they name all these things. And the number one answer is homeless people. You get 10 listings, you sell all 10, because in this market, that's what happens, and it happens quickly. Out of those 10, you've got 6 or 7 homeless people that have to buy a house today. They have nowhere to live. So that's your best source. But people are working these very, very, very weak buyers that have been looking for 6, 12, 18 months. So if you focus on listings, you'll get some buyers, but you'll only get the best buyer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a good mix. And if you're 75% sellers and 25% buyers, you've got the dream life, because these buyers don't take much time.
Yeah, that's great. So,
well, and you know, another thing I'd like to point out, Ren, is you're talking about that. So when I list a house, my intent is to sell 3. And when I get a buyer, my intent is to sell 1. And here's what I mean by that. So if I list a house, obviously I want to sell the house I listed. And then my goal is to get a minimum of 2 other buyers besides the seller,
right,
to actually go out. So you're creating a huge amount of leverage when you do that, when you have the listings, because and by the way, for all of you who are watching and go, I haven't got a single buyer lead in the last 6 months because my houses all sell in 30 seconds. Yes, that has been true in the last 6 months. That's going away. It has to go away. So if you're sitting here listening to this and going, this doesn't work in this market, sure. But this market, it's literally changing every single day, and we are headed towards a balance. I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon, but we're headed that direction. And these are the skills that we're going to talk about today that you need to survive and thrive in this market. If you expect it to be like the last 6 months, the next 6 months, you're in trouble.
Right. No. Well, and this market isn't going to change that soon, because the builders have to build. And I watch that number. I get the stats every 6 months. You know, the builders have not, they underbuilt by 5.8 million homes. Now, to be fair, from the 1990s to 2006 and a half, they overbuilt by about 6, 7 to 8 million homes. And right. So we had to go like that again. And now but they're still not building. We need 1 million homes every year just to break even. And they're not much far above that. So it may take 3 or 4 years just to get up to we're at a 1 month supply just to get up to even, which is a 6 month supply.
Yeah, we're not getting there anytime soon. I completely agree. But I want people to understand, like, we just had our meeting. You know, we were at about 30 offers on the average for a listing that we listed. We're averaging about 7 offers. Now, that's not a buyer's market by any stretch of the imagination, but comparatively, it's a different thing, and we're going to have to adopt. And what's going to start happening? You talked about this type of things. You're going to be able to start listing FSBOs because they're not selling in 15 minutes. You're going to be able to start listing expired. It's like, I'll be honest, I've had Vulcan7 for about 4 years. And in the last couple of months, I haven't used it for expireds because there's about 3 a month.
I know, so, we're a lot heavy. The good news is, you just circle around to, go, what's the old expression? Go where the fish are biting. And with our geo search and our premium geo search, which is amazing. You dial through 20 numbers, you have 9 conversations. People are reaching people that are willing to list property now, because people are saying never, never, never. And what I love is, right next to the person that says that doesn't work is somebody that's doing it. So we have a lot of people making a lot of money on expireds for sale owners, from rent by owners, geo search, and on from there.
Right.
So
let's slow this down, Ren. I want you to talk a little bit slower, and I want you to name those sources again, because the people that are listening to this are looking for, what should I be adding right now? And the people that are watching this either aren't using your tool yet, or they have your tool and they aren't fully leveraging it. So, and that's why I want you here. And it's not about shameless plug. Like,
I know I was a one trick pony. I would get hung up in one category because it would work, and we get, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. All right. So slowly, what are the options with your system?
Whether you or your company, or people don't know this, but here's the interesting thing. As a member of as a realtor, as a member of the multiple listing service, there is a co-op fee if you help sell the other houses. So you have the authority to call someone and say, The Anderson's home down the street from you just went under contract. It was listed at 450. You know, there's still people that want this neighborhood. They didn't want that house, but they still want this neighborhood. And I was wondering, when do you plan on moving? And if you ask a question like that, and you do it in enough conversations, you're going to a fish will hop on the hook. So, and people do this every day. And, you know, and that script, by the way, works pretty darn well because it's just common sense. People still want that neighborhood. They didn't want that house, or they didn't get that house. And, you know, and they still want to move into the neighborhood.
So that's geo, would you say
just
geo?
Your neighborhood search, you know,
Circle
it's our,
prospecting.
right. It's just
circle prospecting, but what do you guys call it in your world?
Right. But, you know, I've neighborhood search or circle prospecting, or, you know, all of that. Basically, when a house sells, it's a good talking point. And when you highlight the fact that, you know, we still have people that are interested in the neighborhood, I was wondering when you know, on and go right into it.
Yep. And then you also mentioned some other sources and Brian and I have talked about these, like for rent by owner.
Right. And here's the confusion. You know, when there's a for rent by owner, and we're not sending you the property manager, we're sending you the owner of the property. And so they have a home that they're advertising for rent. Now, what agents get hung up on sometimes is, well, maybe they'll want to sell that one. And a lot of times, no, they don't want to sell that one. Maybe they do. Sometimes they do. But often, like, I'm just, you know, if you inquire about that, you know, is that the house on Cherry Blossom Road? Is that, I see you're offering it for rent. Would you be open to selling it? Well, no, I wouldn't. Okay, great. Good to know. I'm just curious, how many properties do you own now? Well, I've got 14. Great. Do you have anything now that you may want to sell or exchange for something more lucrative? Well, I'd like to get rid of the one on Handyman Special Way. You know, I'm glad we're talking. If you had the magic wand, when you buy a rental property, what is your ideal property? How many bedrooms, baths? Is it brick? Is it frame? How big's the yard? What neighborhoods is it in? Give me the profile. And they give you the profile and say, I may have something for you. I'll do a little homework on that. And you collect these investors. And let's say the average one has 12 properties. You get a couple dozen of these people, and you just talk to them, you know, all year long. You know, that's pipeline business.
Yeah.
That one investor will feed you and feed you and feed you and feed you and feed you.
You know what's funny? Another agent in my office way back when I was just getting started, and you know, I was like struggling to make business happen. He goes, Archdekin, just get yourself a couple of investors and go out there and hunt for properties, and you'll be fine, right? And that was the advice that he gave me, because they are perennial. That's perennial business, right? If you can, it's its own game, but it is perennial business if you can do that. So you can tap into them from the other side. They're people, they own property, right? And
it's like being a mortgage lender and just working 10 great agents. You know, it's the same idea. You know, that's why they call that pipeline business, because that same person will have 3 or 4 deals for you all year long. They want to buy one, they want to sell one, they want to, you know, they're always like, well, it's time to trade this out, get this one in. So,
yeah, great. So what else can we run through Vulcan7? Obviously the expires, the FSBOs.
Expireds and for sale by owners are alive and well and making a lot of money, and a lot of people make calls. You can't make assumptions, because when their expireds are plentiful and demand is down, or when for sale owners aren't selling that fast, then there are 6 times as many real estate agents calling them. And when they're not, you have a lot less people calling them. And here's the real gold. The real gold is the old expireds. But you have to let them sleep first. After the first 24 or 36 hours of them being hammered, you put them to sleep for about 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, when you call them up, they are the friendliest people, and you can make stuff happen. You can call through 20 old expireds and find a listing. And it works very, very, very well. And so we have a competitor that sells old expireds. We give old expireds to our customers because we want them to call them and have plenty opportunities. But you have to get the opener right. You can't say, I noticed in the computer your listing didn't sell. I mean, nobody likes to hear that. Nobody wants to be noticed in the computer. But if you say something like, Mr. Curtis, or you had a house for sale. Gosh, I want to say it was back in February over on Lincoln Boulevard. A real nice one down by the cul-de-sac. Did you ever sell that? Okay, now you've got a good conversation going.
Yeah, I love what you just did there, Ren. So, so many people are reading off a script, right? Who wants to have a conversation with somebody reading off a script? What you just did, and for all you guys watching, you made it conversational. Like, you
it was a script.
Well, it's a script, but it doesn't sound like, hey, this is Brian. I noticed your thing. Da 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 da.
I'm glad you brought that up. The poor use of a script is offensive.
It is.
Yeah.
The scripts are predictable, duplicatable, and once you've internalized it, and then you have a predictable, duplicatable action. So, but the poor use of a script, we all agree, is very offensive.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know this statistic, about 50%, I'm rounding, of communication on the telephone is not the words you're saying. So think about that. So I could say the exact same thing that Ren said and be completely offensive. I can also say things that people find completely offensive in a way that they're going to love them. So communication is not just about the words. It's about how you express. And you heard his tone. It sounded like he was talking to me like I'm his best friend. And people want that. And by the way, it'll confuse them a little bit. Like, well, maybe I am good friends with this guy. Maybe I know him. I mean, but if you come across as a salesperson, first of all, is this Mr. Curtis? No, that's my dad. I'm going to hang up. So,
assume rapport, and that is done with tonality and a little bit of playfulness. So the best way to do this, may I share a thought? Because we've got people watching right now, or we'll watch it in a few minutes from now. And they're like, I'm looking for another hot idea that will make a lot of sense. So one of the things you can do is, let's say they're in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm making this up, or Louisville, Kentucky. And they say, I want to build up seller business so I can list property and enjoy my weekends, take 6 to 8 weeks vacation, and have a wonderful life. Say, okay, so what do? You find somebody that's doing it, not in Louisville, Kentucky. So maybe that person drives to Nashville, and we hook up a lot of people to do this, and they shadow somebody. They get there that afternoon, have dinner with that person if they're available for dinner. They get to the office first thing in the morning. They shadow them. They record them making these calls. They take a lot of notes. They take a lot of pictures of things and structure and forms and everything. And then they go back and they copy it. And their belief system, when they watch it, they believe it more than just hearing it being told. When they see it, they believe I can do this. But they play the recording like 100 times. When I got started, I had these recordings of great people making these calls, because Brian, you are absolutely right. It's the tonality. If you get the tone and the cadence just right, it's like a key. If the notches are right, the door will open. So if you play that hundreds of times, then you channel that person and you have the very similar successes. Now, if you do that every month, and maybe you have to fly somewhere for a couple hours and do the same thing, at the end of a year, you'll have 12 friends that make $500,000 to $1 million or whatever, and have a great life, and you will be one of them.
Yeah, that's great advice.
If you do that, you will have a dream life.
That's definitely what the top producers do, and I think
they do. They shadow.
Yep, not enough people do that. So.
No.
One of the
and they're afraid I left them a message and they never called me back. You know why they never? Because I used to sell 150, 180 homes. I listed the property. I had 2 buyer agents and 2 assistants. And what people would reach out one time and leave a message, goes, could I come and watch you? And I'm like, I got 14 things to do in the next 5 hours. And I'm like, I mean well, and I wanted to get back to them. So just know, folks, these people aren't trying to blow you off, because they want you to come. You know why they want you to come? It's called the show-off factor. you'll be there watching them, and they'll actually do better, and they'll take more listings because you're watching them, and their ego is very excited to go, hey, look how great we are. And it's a win and a win.
Yeah, that's huge. That's really excellent advice that I think everybody can take away from this. Makes a huge impact. I was gonna say one of the people that has asked me the best questions before when I was a partner in a huge team was someone who did 3 times as much business as we did. But when I was talking about inside sales, that guy nearly rang all the questions out of me that he could possibly think of. And I was like, hold on a second. You're like the 1,400-pound gorilla in this region, and you're asking me all these questions? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Like that guy, there was no ego. He was like, hey, if you know something I don't, I'm going to get it from you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know. We all learn from each other. We all learn from each other, Dale. It's a wonderful thing. And that's, and I'm still learning every day. And
me too. And why, the older version of me decided to learn everything by myself, right? I was going to go out and I was going to do it. I tell people I made wheel after wheel after wheel. But what you're talking about, I'll just call it term, is we're modeling. Why not model somebody else who's already got the solution? Yeah. It takes a third of the time, and you'll be better at it and more efficient and more effective. So, if your ego is so big that you have to create it yourself, go for it. And call me in a couple of years and tell me why that's stupid, and I'll agree with you.
Yeah,
but
bang your head against the wall.
Yeah. If you want success tomorrow, next week, next month, find somebody who's already doing it. And I love that you say you've got to go outside of your market, because here's the reality. There's X number of FSBOs, expireds, all that kind of stuff in any given market. Most people in your market are not going to share their secrets. That's okay. But you can come, fly to Denver, and you can hang out with me, and I'll show you. I mean, it's not.
Brian will teach you everything he knows, as long as.
All right, write that down, folks. Brian Curtis, Denver, Colorado, and what a beautiful city to visit. So
there you go.
So they'll be there. They'll be there. And,
yeah, exactly.
Really, folks, if you're determined you'll do this, you'll do this.
Absolutely.
And have a dream life. Because the biggest problem we have in the real estate business is it compromises time. It robs you of your life. When they look through all the pictures of the kids growing up, oh, there's mom or there's dad, always on the phone over in the corner. I've lined up 6 showings. Can I show this? It's sad. So, but if you're on the listing side, all that stuff goes away.
Yeah. I was going to say, a lot of people within the second half of 2020 and into the first quarter of 2021 in a lot of markets were like, oh shit, we're too buyer heavy. We should have been focusing on listings. We should have been balanced, right? That tide went out really hard.
All right. So in 2008 and 9, I heard the same things over and over again, and they're almost identical to what we hear today. 2008 and 2009, people go, well, none of the newer agents none of the listings are selling, so I'm only going to work buyers. And the people that are really strong say, we got an oversupply of listings, but they're very easy to get, and this is my chance to dominate the listings. I'm just going to list property. And so the smart agents were all listing property. Now, it's funny. It's the exact same story. Well, every listing selling in 2 seconds, hard to get a listing, so I'm just going to work the buyers. And so the newer agents say that. And then the ones that have been doing this a while, they go, I'm just going to list property. It's the same story. Wherever the pendulum swings to the extreme, it's the same story. The people that got to figure it out list property.
It never hurts you to have the listing.
Yeah. What's that, Brian?
He said it never hurts to have the listing. So
if you say you can't get any listings, you're right. If you say you can get listings, you're right.
Little Henry Ford for you.
Yeah. So moral of the story is have a listing business. It is the market share. Gain the market share. And
right. You are the employer. If you are working with the buyers, you are the employee. If we're making a little comparison, an analogy, and buyers are tough. I mean, who has to write the offers? Who has to write the inspections? I mean, that side of the business is the tough part. And you're one of 30, and they better be coming in paying all cash and waiving the inspections with an escalation clause. I mean, and so you end up with like 82 fence sitters just waiting for something to come on, like a chicken jumping on a June bug pole, you know, but the problem is there are 30 chickens. So, you know, fighting over that one little poor creature.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ren, with the time that we have left, because we only do a half-hour show, if people are just now feeling like, man, I really need to get into this, and I need to pick this up, that sounds like something that, you know, Vulcan7 sounds like something I want to look into. Where would they start? What's the best practices for them to get into it? And then once they start getting punched in the face, to stay there and keep doing it?
What are the best practices?
Yeah. What advice?
We have what we have. One of the things we do is we want people to get involved with somebody in some sort of a coaching element, whether, no matter who it is, whoever sends them to us, we want them to have some mentor, some coach, especially ideally a one-on-one coach once a week for 30 minutes. If they do that, these coaches don't cost you anything. You think they do, but they don't. They are a return on investment. They will get you to make a lot more money than they're charging you. A lot more money than, so you want to be involved in situations where where you're writing a check to somebody. You want to do that. And so we have a program called Take 52, where we have them come, they get a little practice, they get a little role play, learn a few things, some basics, and then we're like bugging the crap out of them to get involved in coaching.
That makes sense.
We want them, because if they do that, 10 years from now, they'll be in the business. If they don't do that, 10 years from now, you know where they'll be? Anywhere else.
Yes, punching a clock. So shameless plug, both myself and Brian are coaches and trainers.
So let's go over that. So right now, start with them, and you know, if they and sign up in Vulcan7 through Brian and Dale, because they get a brownie point for that, and that works really well. But sign up for their coaching and training. And what's the best way for them to connect with you on coaching and training? Because there's your first place to start. Where do they sign up?
Oh, well, that would be Dale at Smart Inside Sales, or Brian, your email.
NWA.com. That's where I'm at. I'm gonna I need a new coaching email address. That's my general email address, but that works. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook as well. You know, I connect with a lot of people on there. I'm easy to find. So, but you know, before we go, I appreciate what you just said. We appreciate the plug, and no, we didn't pay Ren to come out here.
No, but that is a fact, because here's the thing. For us, we finally figured it out. If we could get them into coaching, they will be a customer of ours for years.
Yes.
So we have a program. So if you guys want to get involved in that, and you actually don't have to be a Vulcan7 customer, you can go to take52.com and go there. But two things, we will drill you with the best practices, but we'll also sell you on whoever sent you, go back to them and get involved in their coaching. That's what we do. Take and the number 5 and the number 2.com is a good place to start. And you'll be on there. Usually there's 180 people on there on a Zoom on a typical day. Sometimes it's 250 people. But the reason there's so many is because the best practices are amazing. And but you better be in coaching, or we will bother the crap out of you.
That's great. Excellent. Any other questions, Brian?
I would just ask you this, and you guys look at millions of data points a year, I'm assuming, with the number of phone calls that you see. So I get so many people who say this, man, I tried circle prospecting, it didn't work. I tried calling FSBOs and expireds, it didn't work. I tried all this stuff, it didn't work. Now, part of it is, hey, you need to do it right, because again, I can take that same script and screw it up, or take that same script and make it sound amazing. But realistically, somebody who's good, like someone who's been through your training, someone who's coached with Dale, you know, if we call 100 circle prospects, what's my expectation? So I want to set realistic expectations, so people don't go, I called 10 people and I got no listings. This doesn't work. What's the realistic number?
Well, and you have to look at the wisdom of Pythagoras. Remember Pythagoras, the Pythagorean?
I do. He's got a theorem. Right.
He was a realtor in old Greece in 500 BC. He was a realtor back then, wore a little R. And he said, this is a good one to write down, folks. Just write this down. Take the road that's best, no matter how rough, and soon it becomes easy and agreeable. Take the road that's best, no matter how rough, and soon it becomes easy and agreeable. I have had that for years posted up in front of me, because that is the secret. if you give up right away, guess what? There are people that, and hopefully you'll go shadow them, that you'll see that have this down and they're making so much money. Because as Brian said at the beginning, it's not the words, it's the tone and the cadence and the just getting the finesse of that dialogue just right and having all the right answers when they say certain things. And that takes a little time. That just takes time. What is it? Some people like, it took me 6 years to be an overnight sensation, or something like that. So it takes a little time.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, Ren, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Dale, Brian, this was a treat.
Yeah, excellent. Everybody, if you want to
get involved with Dale, get involved with Brian, get involved, and then sign up on Vulcan7 for Vulcan7 through them.
And start prospecting, start talking to sellers, build your pipeline, and take more listings. Absolutely.
Right. It's like the old drug thing. Just say no when it's buyers. Just say no, unless of course you created that buyer. Just say no.
Exactly. Excellent. All right.
Nancy,
thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.